Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I have with me Jen Thornton, and let me tell you about Jen. So Jen helps organizations create an environment of innovation and adaptability by developing leaders with exceptional mental resilience and creativity. She is an executive leadership coach who helps progressive leaders up their mental game to calmly make high-stake decisions and inspire excellence in people who are also playing to win, happy, fulfilled, and doing work they are proud of with their teams they love. Over a decade ago, Jennifer was leading international teams across the globe, helping world-class retailers expand into new markets. And while she was always exceeding expectations for business goals and financial returns, she was also always getting into trouble for pushing back against the status quo. She found that there were other executives just like her, frustrated and stuck in believing that corporate culture would never change, despite how rapidly the world itself was changing. So Jennifer makes sure that everyone, from the newest employee to the C-suite, has every opportunity to become an influential leader of an incredible firm, team, group, whatever you want to call it, making sure that they're working together to build an inspiring and infallible company that is nimble, creative, and future-proof. I thought today's topic is going to be one that everyone should tune into, take notes from. Perfectionism is a tool of fear. Again, that's perfectionism is a tool of fear. And you know, we talk about being perfect all the time on this podcast. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Jen Patterson. Hey, Jen. Such
Hi,
an
how are you?
impressive background, and it sounds like we were going down memory lane for me. So it was awesome to see that there's somebody else that was one of those people that didn't like the status quo so much.
Yeah, I love to, think big and say what if and is it possible or, what else could be true? And, that's work. Thinking bigger or saying have we thought big enough creates work in the environment. And some people aren't willing to do that work. So yeah, so sometimes I get myself called into the principal's office.
Before we get into the meat of this, I did want you to just let everybody know, as I always do, ask a simple question about where do you call home? Where do you live?
I live in Dallas, Texas, and I live actually in Dallas.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There are a lot of suburbs.
Yes.
It's like Atlanta, we say Atlanta, but that's not where we actually live.
Yeah.
All right. So I gave a lot of your accolades and things of what you did from a business perspective, but I find that a lot of times our personal lives are interesting, how they guided us to be where we are today. So if you could just share your backstory a little bit about what took you from maybe that young person starting in all bright-eyed and full of hope, and then decided, oh, wait, things need to be different. So give us your backstory.
So I, grew up and loved fashion. I loved shopping. I always felt like fashion was art. I love that form of art and expression, and, grew up in a fun time in the fashion industry when people still went to the mall every day. And, you couldn't, it was before the internet. So it was a long time ago. But, you got to go and you got to have relationships and experiences and memories. And so, as a little girl, my dream was to work in the mall, and my dream came true. I got to work in the mall. So, that's where I started very young. But what I didn't know at the time that I know now is I learned from a very young age how to run a business. I woke up every day to my KPIs, in the land of retail, every hour on the hour. Are you on track? Are you off track? Is your UPT right? Is this right? Is that right? Is our payroll under control? Do we have the right person, the right job? Like, at a very young age, I was learning how to run multi-million-dollar businesses. And, at the time I was just, having fun at the mall, not understanding the breadth of experience I was getting. And then just over time, continue to really love figuring out how to thinking about like the goals I was given and the team I had, and how do I bring those things together, and how do I get the team excited to make these goals and to do those things. So that's kind of where my passion of working with through teams, my passion for team strategies came in, talent strategies, understanding that as a business leader, the two most important things are taking care of your talent and your money, because without talent and money, nothing else gets done in an organization. And so, my career progressed. I was famous for taking the jobs that no one else wanted. Told several times that's career, suicide. You can't take that job. You're going to crash and burn. No one else has made it in that market. And I was like, well, why not me? Again, kind of that attitude of why not? And so I made some really bold moves. Anytime I physically moved to a new place or took on a international assignment, I grew as a human, let alone a leader. And so, so I continued to do that over time, ended my traditional career before I started my own business in international HR. And it was incredible. It was exciting. I knew how hard it was to align a team. You add time zones, culture, language barriers. It gets real fun to try to align a team. And that's where I think I really understood the power of it. Because I understood the stakes of, bringing teams together for a common goal and the talent strategies and getting creative with them, and, different countries around the world, learning their culture, their labor laws. And that's really where I fell in love with talent strategy. And so one day I woke up and I thought, what if I did this full time? And that was about, gosh, at this point, almost 7 years ago. And that's what ended up here today, is because that's what I do today, is I focus on talent strategies and helping leaders create incredible teams that help, organizations hit their goals.
Awesome. I can't believe how much we're aligned with different things in our lives and such. It's pretty cool. So before you, I guess, left your 9-to-5 job and started this, what was it that really struck you that's this whole idea or concept that fear is really not helping us in our business? And so how does fear create performance, perfectionism, and kill, innovation and creativity in our teams?
Yeah. So, different periods of my career, I think different moments that hit me. One of them was kind of mid-career. I had a leader who I loved working for. This leader. They were fantastic in 1,000 ways, but they were obsessed with details and they would miss the really, really big picture. And in fact, I was having dinner just last night with someone, and we were talking about that time and period. I worked with this person in that time and period, and we talked about how we were so worried about these little tiny things that we miss so much of like what we could have done. And so after working in that environment where I chased the things that didn't matter to check a box and, was held back from really doing some big stuff, It was kind of one of those moments where you're like, that's interesting, and then you go and you work with someone else, when I went into international, you couldn't wait for someone to give you an answer of what they wanted because you didn't know what time zone they were in. You didn't know if they were awake. You didn't like, you had to get really comfortable with making decisions, right
Yeah.
or wrong.
Right.
And I had an incredible leader who just would say, I would have made a different decision, but you made one and it's okay. Here's how I think about it. Tell me how you thought about it. And we all moved on,
Mhm.
and there was not this like, if you make the wrong decision, you'll get in trouble, you'll get fired. And I noticed the change in myself being led by someone who allowed me to make decisions. And then, when I started going off on my own, thinking about that, going through education, I really started studying the neuroscience of the brain and fear in the brain and what it does to us as leaders. And it all just kind of clicked and came together. And I realized that, when we are in fear, we don't want to get in trouble, right? And so
Mhm.
that perfectionism allows us to be right, allows us not to be in trouble, allows us to do a good job, especially for females, we're being good little girls. And
Mhm.
I think that perfectionism just holds us back in so many ways.
Yeah. So very true. I think it wasn't until I was, oh gosh, I demonstrated probably in my 30s and 40s moments of it, but it wasn't until I was in my 50s and I had graduated finally from college that I said, you know what? If it's not going to put me in jail or kill me, I'm going to give it a go. And as a project manager, I did live by the what ifs in those scenarios. And you had to know the big picture to really be able to be comfortable in the decisions. But
Mhm.
you couldn't let that fear of perfection or that ideal thing
Mhm.
keep you from getting ahead. And the thing that I learned in project management is there's always the next phase, the next
Yeah.
iteration, the next,
Mhm.
the next version. So who cares if you don't get it exactly perfectly right the first time? Because
Yeah.
there's opportunities for you to even make it better than that perhaps perfect was.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you say that. Over the last couple of weeks, I'm in a volunteer organization, and someone was upset about something, and we were every. I mean, I watched so many people run in circles over this item, and I finally was like, "Is this changing the result? Is this changing our outcome? Is this changing anyone's lives because of this feedback? Can we do better next time?" Absolutely. Do we appreciate the feedback and honesty? Absolutely. But are we going to spend 10 hours chasing it and talking
Yes.
about it? No, we're
Yeah.
not. We're going
Yeah.
to say feedback received. We appreciate it. We've learned. Now let's move forward. But because they were all so like upset that they upset someone and in fear that this person was going to be upset, I'm like, let's just call this person. Let's talk like let's just handle this and move on. And
Yeah.
but it does happen. It's, we wake up every day and the world gives us a handful of energy. It's all we get that day. Energy is currency. We get to decide where we're going to spend it. And if we're spending it in places that aren't driving our
Mm.
life better or aren't driving our business, whatever we want it, whatever is important to us, then we're wasting that energy. And
Yeah.
it's not an endless supply.
Yeah, energy is currency. That's a writer down, people out there. Energy is currency. So, how did you use that neuroscience that you talked about earlier to really build your successful leadership program and transformation?
First, I use it on myself,
Hmm.
honestly. For those who've gone out and started their own business, it is an emotional roller coaster.
Yes, it is.
I mean, one day you're on top of the world, or actually 1 minute, and the next minute you're like, what was I
Yeah.
thinking? And I've
What?
got to get my resume together. And so I really used it on myself first and I had to become very confident in who I am. I had to get confident in where my fear is. I had to
Yeah.
get confident and honest. Oh, the honesty around when I'm in fear. How does that show up for me? and learn that and learn how I react, and so that I
Yeah.
can balance that. So yeah, so that was the first thing, is I really practiced on myself. And then started helping individuals, and then started trying different techniques over time and over the years, and learning more and studying more. And, the good news is we're never going to know it all when it comes to neuroscience, not in our lifetime. And it's just this constant evolution of learning how brains work, so that you
Yeah.
can help someone understand how their brain's working, so that they can make decisions around it. Our fear is just a chemical reaction. It is, I always tell people when I'm working with them, when you walk up, like in your high building, and you walk up to the window and you look down, and your tummy, your stomach does that little flip flop. It's just fear saying, hey, that's dangerous, back up. It's just a chemical reaction. And we choose how we respond to it. We choose if we back up. We choose if we think, wow, I'm safe. I don't think that I'm going to fall out this window. But, we forget that our body is driven through chemical reactions, and we get to choose how we respond to those reactions.
Yeah. And you really do have to know your body and your mind to be able to do things like that. And I think a lot of times when we go on autopilot, we we let our minds go free.
Yeah.
And that's whenever the fear takes over and such.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess it really all comes back down to are you confident in your decision making and what you believe in? And to me, that always comes back to what are my core values?
Mhm.
And a lot of times, our core values aren't being perfect.
Yeah. No.
It isn't even on the list.
No, it usually isn't on the list. And, we also have to remember that we get addicted from a chemical response standpoint to whatever we keep giving our brain.
Oh
And
yeah.
so if we're giving our brain, if I'm not perfect, I'm not okay, then your brain's going to need a whole lot of I'm perfect, and that makes me okay. And so we have to be really careful to, what we talk about, because, the brain believes what we tell it. And we have to be careful what we talk about. We have to be careful what we tell ourselves is right and correct, and what we give our own kind of good jobs to ourselves. Because if it's like, wow, that is so perfect, and you reward yourself internally constantly for being perfect, then you're just going to need more of that and more of that. And over time, you're just going to, make yourself crazy. You can't be that perfect.
Yeah. And I think it's important for those that are team leads, supervisors, managers that have teams, as well as even parents, to remember about what you just said, because those words that we say to those other people also influence that brain activity and make them really feel inferior oftentimes. And we didn't really mean to, but that's what happens.
It's one of the reasons why it is so hard to mature out of the reactive adult development stage, is because we're rewarded for staying there. So when you
Yeah.
think about that, it's pleasing, it's being conservative, it's perfectionism, it's distancing, it's critical, those reactive tendencies that we have when we're in fear, but we're rewarded for it all the time. We tell people all the time, "Oh my gosh, this is perfect. Thank you." We tell people, "Oh, you're so easy to work with. It's such a pleasure to work with you because you're so easy. You always just do what you're told." And so we reward people for staying in fear. We don't even realize we're doing it, but we do it
Mhm.
every day.
Yeah. So, how can organizations provide leadership education in this ever-changing, fast-paced, especially after the last 3 years? You talked about global, but really, there are no borders. So, if we just look in the U.S. and the fact that teammates are across the states that aren't in your office any longer, how do you provide leadership? I think this is so important. And to me, this is why I came into this business, because I think it's missing in so many businesses.
It is. It's interesting. I always led teams from afar. So I remember
Me too.
when COVID happened, I was like, what's the problem? Like this is like normal, you know? But then I realized it wasn't normal. I didn't realize I was one of the few people, maybe you yourself, it sounds like, who'd never lived where there was a corporate office full time. And so I'd always led from afar. And so I think, when you lead from afar, anything that is kind of your opportunity, it's enhanced. And so if your opportunity is clear communication and you're leading a virtual team, then it's going to become even more important that you work on that skill set.
Mhm.
If you are disorganized or you have a hard time, having discipline, like anything you have to work on as a leader multiplies when you're
Mhm.
virtual, because there's no like just quick in and out. There's no like just side conversations. And so I think to be really strong in today's world, you have to be very resilient in your own mind. You have to teach your people that they can make decisions on your behalf because you're not right there. You can't just say, "Hey, go ask this person right there." You have to really instill confidence in yourself so that you can instill confidence in your team. You also have to be consistent in your views. This doesn't mean you can't change your mind. You obviously can change your mind, but you have to be consistent with how you lead, how you show up, because consistency creates confidence that people can work underneath you and they're not like guessing. It's
Mhm.
that, what does this email actually mean? What mood are they going to be in today? Or, again, wasting energy on thinking about stuff around that versus spending all their energy on moving whatever you need them to move forward. And then they have enough energy to enjoy their life outside of work. And so I think that that's one of the most important things, is really thinking about how you become incredibly clear. You become, clear is kind. You
Mhm.
become very open to feedback. You become very disciplined, and you get really comfortable with your team not being perfect,
Yeah.
because if you expect a team to be perfect, you're going to be disappointed every single day.
Yeah, that's so true. There's so many other things that happen throughout our day that we can't predict that just make perfect just not possible. It just is.
No. Mm-mm.
So, one final question. Time has flown by, and I do want to have you
Oh
back so we
gosh.
can
Oh
continue this
yeah.
conversation because it's just, I think, something, as I said, that's necessary. So, all you out there, there will be a part two to this.
Mhm.
But let's talk about cost and the time that we recruit people, team members. Um, and I think, we're so, especially now where there's uh, so much need for new people and whatnot. And then the new people don't necessarily have a lot of mentors or get the orientation maybe that they need to be successful. So talk about this building of a bench, which I always use too. I have a football love, so it's like,
Oh yeah.
who's on your bench and how are you
Mm.
building your farm team?
Yeah,
So talk about
absolutely.
that a little bit about how that helps organizations.
One of the things I hear all the time, and every generation's heard it. So let's just know that the next generation's going to say it too. This generation doesn't get it. This generation, this and
That is
that,
so true.
We've said it since the beginning of time, and there's a good chance we'll always say it. The thing I always think about is, never before, and it will continue to increase, has there been so many ways to make a dollar. And so when you think about command and control, and you think about the history of leadership is very much command and control. I'm in control because you can't feed your children without me giving you a
Mm.
paycheck.
Yeah,
That is no longer true.
yeah, because
There
sidekick.
is so many ways to make a dollar. And I think it starts with that. Recruitment starts with understanding that people have choices. So you
Hmm.
have to make the choice working for you pretty fantastic. And that's where you have to start. And you start that with great benefits and all those stuff. But you really started with being fun to be around and being exciting and innovative and all of those things. And so that's where creating your bench and recruitment starts, is really recognizing that this is a two-way street, performance, and you have obligations to your team to provide for them and provide environments that make them more resilient and healthy as humans. Past that, there's a lot of things that you can do around recruitment. There's no longer job descriptions. They're now job ads. Making sure that you're recruiting people that want to work in the way you asked to do the job. You can have 3 exact same job descriptions, but 3 different companies expect it to look different, even though the job is exactly the same. And so you have to get really clear about what you want. That building your bench really starts with the leaders, knowing who they are, knowing the environment, knowing the person who's going to excel in that environment, and being honest with yourself about that. I work with people all the time. They're like, I want this person. I'm like, are you sure? Because you just told me you didn't like when someone gave you feedback. So are you sure you want someone who's going to be out there and be bold? I don't know if you do. And so it really starts with that self-exploratory. And then, turnover is, anywhere from 2.5 a person's yearly salary for your specialized positions. It can be 3 to 5 times. So if you have $100,000 employee and you turn them, it's a $250,000 cost to your organization. So I highly recommend people being honest with the cost of turnover and taking that and investing in your team, because you're going to spend that money. Do you want to spend it reacting, or do you want to spend it building and engaging incredible teams? But I could do an entire 3-hour episode on building benches and all of that. But what I would say to your listeners is know how you want the work done, be honest with yourself, and find people who naturally do the job in the way they're going to be successful at your organization.
Yeah. You mentioned one thing just a few seconds ago about that the people need to like working there, and that comes down to not only the job that they're doing and understanding what they're supposed to do, but it really does come down to that manager, that person that they report to. What's that relationship with them? And I think that's where sometimes, especially now without having mentors available for some folks, that's where we're falling short, is that the people that are leading don't really know how to lead well. And so they only know what they're supposed to do. So that's kind of where that perfection, that this is how I do it and the way I do it, and don't give us opportunity to really excel.
I know. Yeah. And you have to let people be creative. Everyone, this is how I want it done exactly my way. And I'm like, well, there's so many ways to do something. You're never going to learn when you don't let people show up and be creative and try out new things. And if you're not playing, I say you got to play to win. And when you play to win, you take risk, you try new things, you get excited about so much in life. And if you're in perfectionism, if you're in this state of everything has to be perfect and I'm safe, you're really playing not to lose. And over time, you'll become obsolete because you're not taking risk and learning new things.
So very true. So many good points shared today, and definitely have to come back and do a follow on. So we'll talk about that after this is over. But it is time now for me to share my slide. If you've been listening and haven't been taking notes, please run and get your paper and pencil so you can get the contact information to reach out for Jen. I'm going to share her contact information right now. So you will want to go to 304coaching.com. Again, that's 304coaching.com, just the numbers, 304coaching.com. And she is also very active on LinkedIn at Jennifer Thornton. Jennifer Thornton. So that's Jennifer with an R between, it looks like the Thornton. So Jennifer R. Thornton. All this information is going to be available in my show notes, as well as on my YouTube channel and my findyourleadershipconfidence.com. But if you are watching, you can go grab a screenshot right now. And I'm going to turn it over to Jen to be able to let you know what you'll find when you go both to her website and to that LinkedIn, social media. Jen?
Yeah, so please visit at 304coaching.com. We have a couple of fun downloads that you can download, some tools that you can use. I also host Let's Fix Leadership podcast, and we come out with new shows every Thursday. They are short, about 7 minutes. So short micro learnings on techniques that you can use to be a progressive modern leader.
Awesome. Well, Jen, it's just been wonderful chatting with you. We have like minds, and and I think really, what you're talking about today is so important for people to remember, especially in times of stress, that we tend to just go to that fear or flight type of thing. But really take a deep breath and just look at the big picture. Is it going to put you in jail or kill you? If not, maybe you can do it.
That's right. Just go for it.
Let's go for it. Let's do that. Awesome. Well, I, as always, want to thank you for being such a great guest and remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.